Chuck Phillips, but and he used to have a cell phone number which was 1-800 Mr. Chuck. It still works. So he's a dear friend. He was at Oracle for many years, and then subsequently now runs a company called Infor, which is a large $3 billion ERP company. And we tried to get him last year, but he couldn't make it, and he promised to come this year, and he's actually made it. So let's take a quick video look at Mr. Charles Phillips first. Come on up. Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you. Well, I think that's the first time I had my own video. I didn't know that was coming. One of us has too many marketing people. I don't know who. But anyway, pleasure to be here. Sorry I didn't make it last year anymore, but thanks for inviting me back. I thought I'd give you a little snapshot of who Infor is, and more importantly, some changes that are happening in enterprise computer. I think there will be more changes in the next 3 to 4 years than we've seen in the last probably 15 or so. And there's a lot of opportunity for startups, and we consider ourselves one, by the way. That's why it says the world's largest startup, to have a big impact on a very large industry that's growing in a different way than it used to, but the opportunities are moved around. But the opportunity to be disruptive and attack and solve some problems that customers have been struggling with for decades is there. So the world's largest startup means that this is a company that is going through a major transformation. New management team came in December of 2010 with the mandate to kind of turn the company around. We all started the same day. About 4 of us all came from Oracle, and then we brought a lot of other people there. So essentially, of the 13,000 people, 3,000 are new in the last 18 months. We hired about 800 new engineers, raised over $1 billion invested in the company, and came out with a ton of new products. And so I'll go through a lot of what we saw when we came in, why we are attacking this market, and where we see the opportunity. So just a quick snapshot. Like I said, about $2.8 billion in revenue, $830 million in EBITDA profit, about 70,000 customers, and about 3,000 new customers in the last year. So a lot of momentum, and we're growing. The result of all that investment, tons of new products and new integrations, all the rationalization, we did all that over the last 3 years, and so now we're starting to enjoy some of the benefit of that. But more importantly, I want to talk about why customers are responding to that and what we invested in. So there's 3 things we invested in that we think are opportunities in the market. So number one, you look at enterprise applications, the way companies are run today, they put in fairly generic applications 10 or 15, 20 years ago. And what happened was a bunch of consultants came in, and then they customized it for a particular industry, and their job was to stay as long as possible, right? They get paid by the hour, by the project, and so it's in their interest to have a 10-year project, 5-year project, what have you, as opposed to 4 months or 3 months. And so the reason that was required because these were generic applications that did not have detailed industry features. So, for example, one of the industries that we're large in, dovetailing off the last presentation, is healthcare. So we automate about 72% of the hospitals in the U.S., but the way you get that market share is by doing something specific that people care about. So nurse scheduling, surgical instrument management, the integration, the procurement, all the clinical integration. We do that for most of the hospitals in the U.S. And so we're going deeper and deeper and deeper, and the opportunity is to take all those customizations that people actually don't want to maintain, don't like, they're very expensive, most of them are aged, they're not sure which ones they're using. Take that out of those customizations and productize it. And that's what customers are asking us to do. The second thing is to come up with an architecture to allow these applications to more easily coexist and integrate, and get away from the big bang implementations with this static point-to-point integration. Now what we know now, today, there's easier ways to integrate applications based on internet standards, and that's changing as well. I'll talk about that in just a moment. And the third is to really rethink the way people interact with technology. 20 years ago, we accepted certain standards of the way applications looked because we were used to green screens and some pretty ugly screens, and that was kind of normal. And the other issue in our industry is the people who buy our applications in terms of enterprise applications aren't the same people that use them. It's usually a CFO or CEO that makes the decision, but the people who actually use them down in departments, they have to suffer with whatever they look like. And engineers in our industry were more focused on security, transaction integrity, things like that. The UI was an afterthought. We think that's changing with the new generation of users. So let me define what we do mean by industry. So it's not what you normally think of as an industry. Something like food and beverage is an example we use. That's what most people call an industry. That's on everybody's website. There's kind of 10 or 20 industries that are on every website. We don't think that's an industry. That is a sector of the economy. What's an industry is actually a micro vertical, and within that there are all these subsectors like meats and bakers and brewers and dairies. Those are different if you're in those micro verticals. So for instance, take a baker. We have software that will measure how fast the stove heats up and cools down, because you want it to taste the same at all altitudes at multiple locations. That's what a baker cares about. And a meat processor cares about catch weight, because that's how they get paid and measure their products. So those last mile features that sound esoteric, they're very important in those industries. We start there and then work back, not with a generic application. These are the things that people have been customizing for decades. They want to do that out of the box. These are all opportunities. There are thousands of micro verticals out there, and people are begging to get this out of the box. They don't want to use the tertiary third-party vendor who they don't know if it's going to be around. They don't want to do the customization, make this part of the application. But you have to understand the industry first and then build the application. So we have to hire people out of the industries who know these areas. We do it for multiple industries and hundreds of micro verticals. We're going to keep adding them. But once you understand the problem, it's easy to build a product. But you have to consult and get people out of that industry. So that's an opportunity for everybody in this room. The second opportunity is move away from traditional architectures, the way people build applications in the future, in the past, rather, I should say, for the enterprise, was to build an integrated application set, one data model, everything tightly integrated point to point, and if you need to integrate it with something else, buy this giant piece of middleware that was supposed to connect to every other piece of software that's ever been built in history. That's a very expensive thing to do. Middleware can't be that complex. It can't be that powerful. It never works. It breaks down over time. The more versions there are of applications, eventually it breaks. The middleware can't keep up. You can't change anything. So you need something that's flexible, and the only application we could think of that can scale, that allows changes, that's loosely coupled, and that's built on standards was the internet. So we modeled the entire integration architecture, entire application architecture after the internet. So what does that mean? That means everybody talks XML, which is kind of like an RSS feed between applications. It also means that you publish all of that, publish in subscribe architecture. So every time there's an event in our architecture, it publishes XML between applications. That's all it does. So we solved that problem of integration, and that's the way I think if you want to get into the enterprise, you've got to solve this problem in some way, because people are scared to upgrade. You can't integrate easily, and no matter how good you are, they're afraid to adopt technology. So we solved that problem, I think, in a simple way that allows us to coexist with other people. And lastly, a big area of opportunity is to change the way people interact with technology. So here's our kind of thought process, is there's a hierarchy of needs in businesses right now, and you can't get in unless you, at the bottom of this pyramid, you do this stuff well. So the applications have to be functional, reliable, usable, they have to scale. All the things we grew up, most of the people in this room, that's how you have to build an application. That's what the speeds and feeds, we're all competing on that for many, many years. What's changed now is we can all do that. That actually is not that interesting. You have to have it, it's required, and people are moving up the scale because they used to using applications that are gorgeous, that are beautiful on the iPad, on smartphones, and you want to reach more people as well. That's the way you do it, is have it be intuitive and easy to use. This has been an afterthought in our industry because the engineers that do the bottom of that pyramid, they're actually not that good at UI. They don't really care about the UI that much, and that's not their skill set. So we thought about that and said, assuming that we can do all that, we'll add all the micro-vertical features, we have a great architecture for integrating everything, great, we've done that. What else can we do to get our applications more broadly adopted? How will people use technology in the future? And how can we make these applications more social? So we spent a lot of time thinking about that, and we decided to go hire people who would help us think through it and do it differently. So we went to people outside of the applications industry. We moved our headquarters to New York City in the design district down in Chelsea. We started hiring people with a design background, out of advertising companies, out of creative agencies. You can see some of the people we hired. The first Apple iAd reader, Pulitzer Prize winner for information graphics, a Kenneth Cole designer, all sorts of stuff. A designer from the movie The Avengers. The common theme here is that people who are creative, have an eye for design, that cared about beauty. And if you go to New York now, all the fashion schools, all the creative agency schools that you have there, they all have a technology track kind of emerged over the last 10 years. So people go to school for design from all over the country, and they get to New York, and they kind of fall into the technology track at the same time. So they picked up both skills, what we call left brain creatives. That's what we're looking for. So we formed a separate creative agency in our company, a company within the company called Hook and Loop, and had them rethink the way applications look and feel. These are all kind of 20-something-year-olds, all of them coming with the jeans and the tattoos on their necks, the whole 9 yards. And but you need that. You need fresh eyes looking at it and say, how would I do it if I was starting today and I want to sell this application, not so much to existing users, but the next generation of users who will be joining over the next 5 years. How would they use applications? They won't use it the way we typically have looked at it. So I'll show you what some of that looks like. So first of all, it has to be beautiful just at first glance, of course. So it's easy to use. It feels like a smartphone. Most of our applications, we do mobile first now, under responsive design, but that's where we start. So clean layout, that's a given. The second thing is it has to be social. So not social in the sense of what people have thought about it in the enterprise of the last 2 or 3 years. Social meant, let me get Yammer or some separate application where I can do a lot of chatting. That's not social. That's social 1.0. That's failed. And the reason it failed is because the applications and the processes couldn't be integrated into that. You'd be chatting and talking about business process, and then you have to stop and then switch application to go do your real work. So we thought about that and said the only way is to take all these beautiful concepts, social constructs, and integrate it directly into the application so you actually do work while you're using those social platforms. And so the application should start looking like this, where kind of like a Facebook news feed, where your tasks and alerts and activity feeds are coming to you, information is coming to you. You're not logging into a workflow or to a form. It's letting you know the things you have to do today in the task, anything that's important in your alerts and your news inside and outside of your company. But more importantly, when you get ready to do work, you should be able to do work directly from the feed, as I say. So let me show you what that looks like. It's a little hard to understand until you see a quick example. And this is the way we think the applications will work in the future. So in this case, we have the scenario here is a sales rep for Ford, and he gets an alert in his news feed. This is the way he starts his day. A little BI, the things he needs to do today come directly to him. We know what your job role is. We know what you're interested in. You're subscribing to certain things in the enterprise. In this case, he subscribes to Ford. So Ford is a customer. That's something he wants to follow. Anytime there's something that happens to Ford, it's going to show up on his news feed. He can click on that alert. It says there's a part shortage. He has something on order for Ford. I can't be late. There's penalties if I do that. Let me see if I can solve this problem using the social network inside my company. So I click on it. I immediately am taken to the application. This is the latest version of LN. All the applications look like this, by the way. And you see it already knew who I was. I'm already authenticated. I didn't have to log into another application. It takes me to the relevant application immediately and that transaction. In addition, it gives me in-context BI on the right. That's a context frame over there communicating by XML. It knows what order I'm looking at, why I came there. So let me show you some more information about what you're looking at. And in this case, on the right-hand side, it shows me planned availability at that plant where that part is made. So now let's use the social network to try to solve this problem. I have a share button. Just like when you go to a website, you see a little share button. or you go to Facebook, you see the share button sometime. I click on the share button here, and what I'm going to share is the context of this screen in this order I'm looking at. So I have, it grabs the graph I'm looking at, the order number, the item number, the invoice. I didn't have to type anything in full context, and I type in, at production, I'm working on this critical order for Ford, can you help me? So at production is just the same thing as you say, like at someone on Twitter. And it knows for this part, for this customer, where the part is made, who you need to talk to. It's mapped the hierarchy of your organization. We keep track of that in the master data management. So now I'm connecting and helping solve this problem using a network. I don't have to know where this part is made or who can solve it. So I post that, and it shows up on the news feed of the production manager. He could be in Tokyo somewhere. I didn't have to know that because the system knows that. And he's doing his work, going about his business every day, and it pops up on his news feed, just like he was on Facebook. And what comes there is that same chart, that same metadata about the order pops up there, and those two people are now connected. So you just now had a small work group that got formed instantly. They didn't have to know each other. That's part of the function of a social network, is discovery. Companies need the same thing. So he would do what you think he would do. He would take, let me get this to someone who works for me, takes it, let me help this guy out, post it, and he sends it to at maintenance, because the maintenance guy works for him in the plant. Can you help this guy out? I'm guessing the plant we're down for preventative maintenance in the plant, which is exactly what the chart said on the first screen. He posts it, and as you would expect, it shows up on the maintenance manager's news feed. Now you have three people working on the problem together. They didn't know each other 5 minutes. They didn't have to know each other 5 minutes before that. So you're taking unstructured processes, because in a normal company, you'd have been calling around, phone calls, emails, trying to find someone who could help you. The system put these three people together. So that's the power of a network. And you continue with that. He can drill down to the maintenance board, because he's the maintenance board planner, has access to that application. This is our product EAM. And sure enough, you can see planned maintenance on that day. He can move it out, solve the problem. I'll change it, defer it for a couple of days to get this order out for him, post that back, and he lets everybody know about it. And as you would expect, pops up on everybody's news feed. Everybody can subscribe to all that and get alerted that the problem's been fixed. And what this does for a company is now there's transparency. All of that, everybody can read. It's external. You don't have to worry. You know who solved the problem. You know who does work in your company now. You can value each other. People start to tag each other as very good at their jobs. There's an audit trail of all of this. You can do timelines on this and see how long it took for this to get solved, who approved what, when. So you start to manage your company differently because you can see more. So a lot of processes in the company, nobody knows how it works because it's so fragmented by silo, right? This cuts across silos. And so when we show people this is what they want, because it's a different way to manage your company. And it externalizes your processes, and at the same time it converges unstructured processes with transactions. And that's what's been missing all these years. We'll have this silo of things where we try to have knowledge bases and somehow to kind of trap and monitor how we do things on the unstructured processes. But until you've converged the two, you can't really see what's going on. This is what does that. But you have to integrate the applications on the back end first to participate in all this. So anything that we're doing now, you can be looking at any news feed, look at any business object. So you can take a purchase order as an example. I can right-click on it and say follow. When I say follow, that means anything that happens to that purchase order, anytime it changes, I'll get an alert in my news feed with what happened. I can follow equipment. I can right-click on a piece of a tractor. And because it had sensors on it and maintenance data, so we have the asset management system, anything that changes on that piece of equipment shows up in my news feed. So you start to decide who you want to follow, things, people, data, applications, and you do work in the feed, as we call it. So if you get alerts in the feed, things happen, you right-click on it, you can approve it or reject it right from there, right on your phone. You don't have to log into a form. So that's kind of how people want to work, and the next generations that we talk to, that's how they're used to working and used to thinking of processes that just all kind of comes to you. You're not logging in things, looking for things. So everybody is a part of their search engine. We actually think if you have to search for something, the system has failed you. Stuff should be coming to you based on who you are, constantly on your phone or on your iPad. So we show this to a lot of analysts. This is kind of reaction that we're getting, that we're kind of changing how people are interacting and running their companies. People want to a third choice in the industry for the ERP duopoly, lots of quotes like that. This is just a start. Took us almost 3 years and $1 billion to do this. So after 3 years of investing, we're now kind of coming out to these conferences and sharing what we've done. There's a lot more underneath that. We're taking this to the next level with the next generation of the visualization that we're working on. The next UI is going to have a lot more Internet of Things and visual things. Walk in the factory floor, location-based services. We know where you are. We can send you alerts and let you know you're next to a piece of equipment that's about to fail. Automatically generate the work order if you say okay. Things like that. So we have a lot of things we're working on. We're doing the same thing in hospitals right now. A lot of the hospitals we work with, they have the problem with trying to know what their costs are. And now with the Affordable Care Act in the U.S., they have to know that because they don't have unlimited reimbursements anymore. So what they're asking us to do is to, with wearable computers and sensors on the equipment, wireless sensors, is to let them know where nurses are spending their time, where doctors are spending their time, and now we can take the cost data and map that to a particular patient so they know the outcomes. And then you start to benchmark doctors against each other. Doctors hate being monitored and benchmarked, but they have to now. And so we're providing that for Mayo Clinic, Cleveland Clinic, and major hospitals in the U.S. So just thinking through the UI experience, how can we get more data, how can we present it and make it easier to use? And that design group, we send them out to customer sites and watch how they work for about a day, and that's how we come up with these ideas. So that's been working pretty well for us. But you have to be willing to rethink the processes. If I send a regular engineer out, they're going to say, don't change anything. I put all these features in for a reason. There's 47 things on the screen. They're all important. And what we often find out is we send somebody out with fresh eyes who's not from this industry. They'll look at it and say, I just watched them all day. There's 4 things they use. They don't care about the other things. That's 2% of the time they need that. Let's put those 4 things on the screen, make a beautiful UI, put it on their phone, put it on an iPad, and just reinvent the way people use the application. You get a lot more responsiveness and broader adoption. So we're having a lot of fun doing this, kind of changing the way these applications work, freeing up a lot of data, standardizing it on the back end, and figuring out new processes. There's so much data available now coming from sensors and Internet of Things, and so we're building new applications and use cases as we work with customers. That's a kind of an idea of what it looks like, but you want to share that in that social construct so everybody can see what's going on. So when you first present this, the users always love it. It's the executives that say, I don't know, that's a lot of information available to everybody. I'm not sure I want to share all that data. I said, well, number one, it's probably getting shared in ways you don't know about today. Number 2, that's the whole concept here. You want to be more transparent and learn about your company, and it's a way for you to influence. So these processes are happening. You might as well know how they happen and have some input on it. So that's what we're doing and having a ton of fun.
Okay, so this is fantastic how you're reinventing Infor, but the people here are startups.
Yep.
So how do people in this audience, we have 1,000 entrepreneurs here, how can they work with Infor and be part of your ecosystem?
So I was listening to some of the startups last night. We're looking for more ways to get data, right, from different devices, from voice-enabled systems, for whatever things, anything that's been instrumented, we could render it in this interface. So people who are capturing big data in different applications work with us. We use simple XML as a standard. We can become partners with a lot of you in the room that are accessing the various systems.
And the other thing is your designs were beautiful, man. I mean, can you share that? I mean, can your partners participate in some of the design programs and stuff too?
They can. We actually brand our user experiences. So we have release of user experiences like other people have releases of products, and that's the Soho generation. We're working on Gramercy Parks. The next generation is even slicker than this. And so we can show people how we do that. We have a whole design team in New York. It's almost 100 people now that do nothing but that. And the best practices on how they interact with customers, how they iterate. So most of the time when you go out, we come up with something. You have to have an idea for a customer to look at, something, a prototype. We're kind of 60% of the way there. We go out and visit the customer. They kind of tweak it. No, I don't like that, I don't like that. But we found out a way to do that quickly. And so that process, I think, is valuable. And we kind of learned it over time.
Let me change the topic a little bit. These most of the companies here are startups, 2, 5, 10 people, right? And in that initial phase, it's how do you build a team, how do you communicate, and I know I want to take you back a long time ago when you were in the Marines, right?
Yeah.
So can you believe Chuck was a Marine? When was that? 25 years ago, whatever?
Yeah, I got on 86, yeah, exactly.
So what are some of the things when you were a Marine, to learn about team building and communications? Can you share something with this audience?
Yeah, well, the military is a great way to learn how to lead people because you can't pay them any more money. You have to learn how to, something else you have to inspire them. And so one of the things you learn is, one, communicating is obviously critical, but also finding some reason why they feel like this mission is part of them is important. And it can't be just about you do it because I say do it. It's got to do it because we both benefit from this. And so you figure out a way to make them feel a part of the team, have input, you're listening, and now you want them to not be afraid, but be afraid to disappoint you.
And in terms of team building, I know you had to build a team at Infor. What are some of the things you can share in terms of who you pick? Because a lot of companies we meet here, there's one founder, and, maybe you need two founders, or you have two people in the core team, you need four. What's the thought process you had as you were building your initial team?
I'm not a big fan of the mega founder concept. I believe in kind of more flat teams and partnerships. So we're a $3 billion company. I don't have an office. Nobody has an office. The entire management team sits at a square table when we work. It's completely open floor plan. Anybody can walk up to us at any time. People walk up and show us random demos. People don't like hierarchy, and I think hierarchy slows you down. So if you can be flat, and if you're comfortable with that, I mean, it took us almost 6 months to find a CFO, because CFOs are very, constrained people. They want that office. We had to find one who's comfortable. You're not going to have an office. I don't care what your job is, and that's an unusual scenario. But if you get the right team where everybody's comfortable with that, you're spending time together all day. Everybody can finish each other's conversation. You're hearing people talk while you're talking. Oh, wait a minute, what did you say? No, I did that yesterday. Things just move faster, but you got to be comfortable working in that environment and that it's a partnership.
Questions for Chuck? One back there. Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, here. Thanks for the presentation.
Sure.
One of the questions that I had looking at the example that you gave was when people leave companies, there are usually very chaotic times for business processes, right? So in the example that you're given, how do you manage that? Like, would one of those people were to leave, what happens to that audit trail? How would the new person coming into that position use the past information?
That's a great question, and one of the benefits from the system is you retain institutional knowledge. So if I join the company tomorrow, I can see exactly what happened to Ford, all the people have been working for it. I'm now mapped into at production, for instance. I'm now part of that group, so I now have access to that data. So that's the way that works. So that's one of the major benefits of doing this is you preserve institutional knowledge.
Go ahead.
Hi, I just noticed that you are about $2.8 billion in a private company. So first question is, why are you choosing to remain private? That is one. If you had taken venture capital, would you have had that liberty? And third is, do you think staying private is one of the reasons why you have been able to transform so much?
Being private has been a huge benefit for us, Phil. And not many investors can, if I was a public, I couldn't do this. So I went to private investors and said, this is going to take me about 3 years. I need $1 billion. I don't want you to ask me any questions for 3 years either. And I'm going to invest in, you won't know what I'm investing in. Even if I told you, you wouldn't know. So that's what I'm going to do. So you don't get many public investors that will let you do that. So, and they were comfortable, so as long as there's a certain level of profit, it's not going down, anything you make above that, you can invest in it. And any cost savings you create, and we took about $125 million of cost out of the back office and moved it to products, all that we did on our own and didn't have to explain it to anybody. And so that's the benefit of being private. Can I stay private forever? I don't know, probably not at some point. I'm going to have to get these people their money back. But so far, it's a big advantage, and I want to take advantage of it for at least a couple more years.
Yeah. Hi, I'm Ankur from Infosys Software. The question is, what the journey was very incredible, what you did. Are you able to measure the rate of adoption of the new behavior process? And are you able to accelerate that? Because across the 2,000 or 3,000 customers, the adoption rate of the change behavior may be varying and the hurdles may be varying. So are you able to kind of figure that out and accelerate that?
Well, if you mean in terms of once they install the system, watch the behavior change, that we can, because the adoption, once they make the decision, we're going to install this and this is the way we're going to operate the business, we can measure everything. That's one of the benefits of this system. The second thing we normally see is people start, because everybody can see each other, and we can measure everything. That's one of the benefits of this system. The second thing we normally see is people start, because everybody can see each other, and we can when people are watching, people behave differently, right? Because their peers are watching, they want to look good to their bosses and everything, and people start tagging each other as well, saying, he helped me do this. It's like a like, you go to a website, you see the like button. Well, we have that for people inside the enterprise. And so that becomes your HR measurement system, because you can see who's doing what, and people are telling you. You don't have to go ask people anymore. So it changes behavior. People work a little harder. They know they're on stage now, and that helps.
Next question up here. Sorry, one up here.
So you have what was traditionally a two-horse race, and Infor catching up, and then you have Workday on the other side. You have the whole SaaS thing happening. How do you see the landscape today and maybe the next 3 to 5 years ahead?
Well, that's the big question. Is we need to get people to re-examine the status quo. If we don't do something disruptive and get people to change what they're doing, then it doesn't help us. So we're going to do things that are going to be completely different, take some risk, and some of them will work, some of them won't, but it has to be different. And so that's why I like Workday, because they validate that people are willing to think of it differently and try something different they weren't trying before. Same with Salesforce. So we're the only company that started out on-premise, and we made an announcement 2 weeks ago called Upgrade X, where every customer will move you to the cloud to the latest version of our app for $55,000 flat fee. It's time to go. Everybody, let's go. And so that's it? We just moved? Yeah. So the enormous response we've gotten to that, but you can only do that if you're willing to take that risk. Will there be some bumps and, something that could have been a license now subscription? Great, we're private. I don't care. We can do that. So that's what we can do as a private company, is just say, let's pull the Band-Aid off and just go for it, and we'll figure it out along the way.
One last question, please.
This is Silva from Greenotech. We are Infor partners for India and Africa. And we also work with two of the most biggest projects for Infor. That's
Great.
Cleveland Clinic Abu Dhabi, and also you work with the government of Tanzania. So I would like to know what is your healthcare strategy for India and the region here.
Okay. Well, I've spent a lot of time here the last couple of days, and this is a huge area for us. We have about 1,400 employees here in India. We have a lot of customers here. We were here this morning meeting with one of our largest one, Godrej, who's rolling out us in multiple locations, big customer here. We're going to invest more and localize more products. We have one product LN done that's pretty well done. We're adding Sightline right now. We're adding more partners. We just met with Emphasis yesterday. Tata has agreed to work with us here. So we're just adding the partner base right now and reinvigorating that. We have a lot of customers too, like Godrej and others, who have gotten so good at implementing our products internally, they form kind of systems integration functions on their own to go do third-party companies, which more than I realized. So we're going to take advantage of that as well and have them expand in the region. So we're bringing more products here. All what you just saw is available here in India, and we had our first Hindu product that we announced, I think, about 2 weeks ago. So all of that we're investing here locally, and most of that work has been done in Hyderabad, and so that's where most of our employees are. We have about 150 here, but almost 1,200 in Hyderabad.
Okay, we'll squeeze in one more question.
One more? Okay.
Verticals based on performance, or how was it done?
We've only been adding, we haven't done the chopping yet. We probably at some point should look at that, but so far they're all doing well. So what we do is we have a whole organization that it's tasked with finding new micro verticals, and that's usually by working with customers and small partners. We encourage partners to build micro verticals. They take our development platform that we use to build all this. We can't cover them all. You want to extend our products and go into micro verticals on your own, we'll help you identify them, build your own, integrate them to our products with ION. And so we're constantly adding. The latest one we added was printing and packaging, which is a market where people who print on like cardboard and 3D images and bottles, that's a whole industry, and it's very intricate, different colors, different dimensions. And quoting and getting that right, since every job is custom, is how you get your margin. You get that wrong, you lose money. There was no application for them. They came to us, asked us to build one. We came out with the printing and packaging module. Now we're selling that as under micro vertical.
Thank you so much, Chuck. Really appreciate coming out to India.
Easy. Thanks for good seeing you, man. Yeah, thanks.
Okay, we're going to do another